Oh, perfect timing. There we go. We're now live.
We're all on it.
Darn, I should have coordinated our pours better. I jumped ahead of you guys a little bit. But yes, as you'll see, I've dressed for the occasion, matching this beautiful beer. I was inspired by Johnny Hamilton, who we spoke with last time from New Barns, and their can is all yellow, and he dressed in all yellow. So I thought it was fitting. So hello, everybody. Welcome. We are here with Lucy and Mike of Double Barrel Brewery, and we are going to be tasting their Rosella, which is a red currant and peach fruited gose. So I've got the can here. Oh, we can show it off to the camera. Very nice. And then the pour here. Just how amazing does that look? So we are streaming today on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. And you can join us from any of those platforms. Wherever you're watching, just pop your question down as a comment, and that will come through to us so we can pass them on to Lucy and Mike. What we're going to do is basically do some brief intros, move on to our tasting. So talk about Rosella, what we're picking up from it in terms of the flavors and the textures, then go into the brewing process. How did you make something as magical as this? And then we'll talk more broadly about double barreled and have Lucy and Mike tell their story. So in terms of quick intros, I'm Nat. I am a beer educator, beer sommelier, and advanced cicerone. So I teach people about beer for a living. It's pretty awesome. And I've just launched my virtual beer school. We've all been stuck at home, sadly. So I wanted to bring my beer education online. So we're finishing the first cohort tomorrow, which is exciting, and starting again in January. So if anyone's keen to learn more about beer from your home, look me up at Beer with Nat, and you can find out more about that. And in terms of why I'm here on behalf of Mother Kelly's, I got my start in beer there 5 years ago. So they've brought me back to host their lockdown live streams. This is maybe our 6th or 7th, but they've been really fun, a really great opportunity to bring brewers on and have them tell their stories. So Lucy and Mike, who are you?
Hi. Hello. So I'm Lucy. I am the co-founder and co-owner of Double Barrel Brewery. We are a brewery based over in Reading. We have an on-site tap room, but we also ship nationwide. We'll tell you a little bit more about the beer, but in terms of what I do there, I'm sort of everything other than the brewing side, I guess, though that have definitely got involved when we started out, and it was just the two of us involved in sort of pretty much every process. But on day-to-day basis, I deal with most things office-based, like marketing, accounts, sales bits, bit of operations.
All the hats. My goodness.
Yeah, all the hats.
Yeah. Yes, many hats. So my name is Mike. I am the other half of Double Barreled. My role really is as head brewer, so designing recipes. In the early days, I was doing all of the brewing as well, though as our team's expanded, that has started to change quite significantly. And then everything else operational based. So my background being in logistics lends itself quite well to that.
Oh, that's handy. Okay, so making the beer, getting the beer out, shouting about the beer. The pair of you have a hand in it all. And Lucy, do you want to show off your amazing necklace? That is your logo.
As you noticed. Cheeky DB. I'm hoping that's the right way around. I'm like looking at it there going.
I can't. Sometimes it mirrors the screen, sometimes it doesn't. I can never tell you.
I did
great.
The necklaces and earrings because I was very adamant that I'd want to wear sort of a dress and then just have a little touch of DB on my outfit. So there we are.
Not always in a brewery t-shirt, but always repping in some way. Yeah, awesome. Well, yeah, we'll come back to the brewery and your story in terms of the travel you did before setting it up and, what your last 2 years have been like. But let's talk about our beer first, because I never like to keep people waiting. So again, Rosella is what we're tasting today. We've all got it poured out in our glasses, ready to go. And in terms of going through the tasting, I'm going to talk us through the tasting like a beer professional would taste a beer. So that means talking about its appearance, aroma, taste, and texture. So making sure we comment on all aspects of it. I'm going to give it a go first, and then I'm going to come to you guys and see what else you would add or what I've missed in terms of its description. We were talking a little bit about the color beforehand, because it is just so stunning in terms of how much color has come through in this beer. And for me, it looks just like a glass of ruby red grapefruit juice. And yes, I am, as I've said, matching it. Maybe it's too much red on the screen, but in terms of the haze and the color and everything, I did have more foam when I first poured it, and that has since dissipated as, of course, this is a sour beer. But yeah, I love the appearance. So great place to start. And then in terms of aroma, it's always helpful to give the glass a swirl. I filled my glass a bit too much, so now I can't swirl it. But if you give the glass a swirl, then more of that aroma will come out. And for me, the first thing I pick up is actually the salinity. So we'll go into Gose and what makes a Gose unique. But this style has salt in it. And salt is a taste, so it's not actually something we can smell. But one of my favorite descriptors for Gose is it's often described as smelling like a clean sea breeze. So imagine you're walking by the beach and you kind of smell that seaweed that has that dried salt on it. So I get the salinity first. And then when I take a deep sniff, I get loads of lovely peach. Like the peach is in there afterwards for me. And then that kind of tart red berry character, which, as we know from the label, is red currant. And then taking a sip, oh, it's like brings out my dimples. The tartness is really what comes through first on the palate. And then the salinity is there, that lovely sort of mouth-watering salt. And then after that is when I get the fruit again, the peach, the red currant. And what I really like as well, you describe on the can as it being reminiscent of an actual red currant and peach tart. So the pastry, having the wheat, the oats, and the malt in there kind of gives you that pastry base taste as well. So it really does bring the whole pastry thing to life. And I get a little hint of vanilla too. And maybe that's just because I'm imagining it, that it tastes like it's got custard or vanilla in there or something. But I think the description of it tasting like a pastry is a really, really fun one. And especially as the bake-off final was last night, very fitting too, since I'm a bit of a bake-off fan. And then my last comment is on the mouthfeel, because as I've said, the salt in there and how it makes it so mouth-watering, it just makes you want to go back for more. So yeah, how did I do? How would you guys describe the beer? What are some of your favorite bits about it?
I think you're pretty close. I mean, the only thing I would say is that there is no vanilla in the recipe.
Okay.
There's certainly plenty of malt and wheat. There's some oats, some oat husks in there as well, which sort of add to that bready base.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, as is traditional for the Gose style, the salt is added. We've also got some coriander seeds in there as well to boost a little bit of the aromatics.
Oh, yeah, interesting. Okay. I forgot about the coriander. And now that you say it, I'm like, oh, I get that little zesty herbal spice. Yeah, okay.
Which, I mean, that's pretty much our base for all of our kettle sours. So it's quite a nice platform to start from for a Gose style anyway. If we're going straight to the kettle sour, then obviously we would omit the salt and the coriander. But yeah, as I say, plenty of barley, plenty of wheat, some oats, and then, yeah, the fruit.
Yes. So let's talk about the fruit. Why those two fruits, peach and red currant? That's super unique to me. I've never tasted a Gose with those two fruits. So why did you pick those two, and sort of what fruits had you tried before that then led you to picking these ones this time around?
So we do quite a lot of fruited sours as it is, and we tend to try, rather than going down a one-note route regularly, we tend to try and blend a couple together usually. I mean, there are exceptions. We've done straight up blackcurrant, we've done straight up sour cherry in the past as well.
Oh, fun.
But previously we've also done like mango and passion fruit. We've done what was it? Red currant, blackberry, and raspberry, I think, is a nice blend together. How do we? Partly it's to do with what's available from our fruit supply to start with, which is obviously seasonal. And partly it's to do with whatever is available. We'll tend to get some samples in and just sort of run some tests on what flavors work well together just as base fruit before we start adding beer into the mix. And yeah, the red currant and peach, I was trying to, from what was available and from what we liked during tasting, red currant and peach stood out. But trying to sort of work that into inspiration, I guess, was a bit about base. It was more, I've got this fruit combination that I'd like to try. What does that match against in outside the beer world? If you know what I mean.
Okay. So yeah, where would people find these two flavors together elsewhere?
Yeah, and that's where we found the recipe for this red currant and peach tart thing.
To inspire it. Yeah, because I can totally envision it. Like, I see the pastry, I see those lovely little red berries sitting on top, the slice of peach. Yeah, like I can imagine what it would look like if it were a food as opposed to it being a beer. Yeah. And do you normally go looking for sort of a food tie-in when you've done the past ones, or because they're single fruits, people kind of understand, you know, you expect sour cherries in a sour cherry Gose, and maybe the mix of, you know, mixed berry is a flavor we're familiar with. So maybe you don't necessarily need to tie that into a fruit the way you would with something like this.
We did with Pocket Money. We did a rhubarb and custard Gose, which
that sounds so fun.
And we used like a what was it? A stewed rhubarb crumble recipe base to then inspire kind of what the how we were going to create that beer without it being just an artificial addition.
That's very cool.
It's sort of something that I think helps to structure kind of, when you've got like a plethora of different flavors or fruits available, that helps to give you a bit of guidance of kind of what works well, what blends well. This beer in particular, when we were doing the tasting, so we had various members of the team going out and we were like matching up, what would be the balance of the two fruits in this, how percentages should we do, and everybody disagreed with Mike, but we still went with Mike's option on this one.
I'm pulling rank on this one. This is I wanted to taste of, so this is what we got.
So this one is all Mike.
There we go. So how do you actually add the fruit into the beer? I know red currants, they come as a jelly, they come as tiny berries. So do they get pressed? Do you use a juice? And then with the peaches, what form are they added in? And how does that impact the flavor of the beer?
For this one, it's all puree.
Okay.
And on this occasion, so the split that Lucy was mentioning, we went for 2-1 red currant to peach. But it's all puree. I guess the red currant must be sieved because seeds, etc. It's all puree. It's added towards the end of primary fermentation, so still enough active yeast in there to then deal with any additional sugar juice with the puree, but it's not like it's not too much lag between the two sets of fermentation, if you know what I mean.
And so then, as you said, you kind of make a base gose and then choose the fruits that you add in towards the end. Can you talk us a bit through that base brew for how you make a gose? And then now we know what's given it this particular flavor, but what about the coriander, the sea salt, the lactobacillus? When do all of those things play their part in the brewing process?
Yeah, sure. So we basically have 2 brew days. So the first brew day is standard mash with the grist that we're using. We'll then boil that for 5 minutes or so just to guarantee that everything that is potentially living in there is now no longer living in there.
Not living there, yep.
And then we'll chill it down to 40 degrees in kettle and then pitch our lactobacillus culture. It will, the latent heat and what's the word? My word, I'm drawing a blank. Our kettle holds the temperature very well. So we'll leave
the jacket? Are we talking about the jacket on the kettle?
Yeah. I've just drawn a blank on that word. Never
mind.
So we'll pitch the lactobacillus. We will leave it basically for 2 to 3 days. Monitor the pH change in that time, and then when it's sort of stopped dropping, we know where it'll stop. We'll then boil it again to kill the lactobacillus strain, but also to then continue the brew day, as it were. So we'll do a full 60-minute boil, add hops at the start of the boil, and then transfer to FE. So from that point on, it's then a very standard brew until we start to add fruit.
Yeah, it's quite cool, I think, to show people how the process of getting the acidity into the beer happens, because it's not something that's found in most beers. But of course, the Gose, as you mentioned, is this classic German wheat beer style that also has the acidity and the salinity and the coriander. And then you've, played with it in your own way by introducing the different fruits. Do you have a favorite of the different fruited Goses that you've made? And even you may have different ones, or you may have a different bestseller. I'm happy to hear either what works best for your customers or what you guys have liked best out of all your experiments.
You go first on that one.
Well, it wasn't a Gose style, but it was a kettle sour, which was very popular, which was the Big Fruit Heist that we launched just before around about lockdown 1, I think it was, which was mango and passion fruit, which was really popular. We ended up brewing it again during lockdown, which was great because it was like people were just loving it. People were like likened it to drinking a Solero in a can. So that was like quite a good sort of positive side of it, I suppose.
Yeah, description of just how fruit forward that beer was.
Yeah, for me, I'm actually really personally really enjoying Rosella. I think there's like a balance to the various different kind of blends of, as you were saying, like the salinity, the fruitiness, the sourness that makes it a very drinkable sour for me. Because whilst the really fruited ones are, this is definitely still very fruited, but like whilst something that's hyper fruited will be really interesting and really like stand out of the crowd. For me, I'm not necessarily going to drink 10 pints of it. So
yeah, so it's still got to remain drinkable, whatever else you're adding into it. And Mike, what's your preference?
I actually think from a technical brewing point of view, I'm most happy with Rosella out of all of the previous batches of kettle sour we've done. And I think that's just part of, learning, tweaking and playing around with stuff. The beauty of being able to make more beers or like more new beer all the time is it allows you to test things that didn't quite go right or tweak little things and see how you can then work that back through in the future.
Nice. Okay, that's great. I'm so pleased to hear that you're so pleased with this one. That's exciting. And I've got one more question. Then we've actually had a viewer question come in, which is what I was kind of going to ask next anyway. So my one last question on this beer, well, I suppose this compared to your other fruited sours, just to explain to listeners what the difference is. Are your fruited sours then just not including the sea salt and the coriander?
Yeah.
So your Gose would always have that in it. The fruited sours will have the fruit, but not those other two ingredients.
Yeah, and we hold off on defining it more rigidly into, say, a Berliner Weiss because we're missing Brett, which would be more traditional in true to old heritage styles. So it's trying not to step on the toes of sort of strict guidelines of what a beer should or shouldn't be called based on what's going into it.
I like that. That's nice. Yeah, it's hard to toe the line sometimes with a historical style that's been interpreted one way, the modern reinvention that looks a bit different. And yeah, maybe the people get the wrong idea, or those who are still making it the historical way kind of get displeased. So yeah, I like that. You're acknowledging the method and maybe what it's inspired by, but not necessarily putting it to name.
Yeah.
All right. Well, moving on from this beer, as I know this is only one of many beers that you make, and they're not all sours or fruited sours. You do a huge range of styles. And so the question that's come in is, you make a sizable split of fruit beers and New England or juicy styles, pale ales and IPAs. So how do you decide what sort of goes into the core range and what that split is between the standard beers, your pale ales and IPAs versus your sours?
That's great. That's a mark.
Is it? I'm sure it's a production. Yeah, it's a really good question. This year has been one of those years where we all rules have gone off where you'd normally be going at. So we've actually expanded a little bit this year, amazingly, primarily so that we could continue regular production of like our two core beers, which is Parker, our 4.5% Citra Dry Hop Pale Ale, and then Ding, which is our local 4.9% Keller Lager. So we were finding that we were kind of having to like dominate our tanks with producing those two core beers like more frequently than we'd wanted to be doing. It's fantastic, but it's kind of not what we enjoy, is kind of creating new things and developing and constantly looking at what's new on the market, what fruits are available, what we find that side exciting. So in terms of like the range we produce, we kind of like to have like a good selection so that you reliably would have like a new IPA out, an interesting like slightly higher ABV pale, like a 5.2% pale, a stout certainly in winter, and then maybe something more interesting maybe that we haven't kind of done that's broadens that range. So I think for us it's just about creating variety, what we want to drink, and seeing how it goes. But this year I think we've played it very safe for obvious reasons. We haven't necessarily kind of pushed the boundaries of what we've been wanting to maybe brew, or what we'd have hoped to be brewing this year, just simply because it's been a bit like, let's just do what we know sells. And it's a terrible thing to say in many ways, because it's not kind of why you get into this industry, but
but there are other reasons dictating the choices this year. Yeah, of course. And I don't know if you want to share, you can keep it a surprise if you want to, but what is a style that you would love to brew that you haven't done yet?
A style that we've brewed on small batch we have brewed full batch, but not been quite happy with it. That I really want to get behind is barrel aged imperial stouts. It's it's where I always envisaged taking double barreled, but
it makes sense with the name as well.
Exactly, it's just something that for me, I love the nuance that's involved with that, and the fact that it does take such a long time to produce something that you're not quite sure how it's going to end up. And it can continue to change and develop over time, even once packaged.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is because it takes such a long time to be releasable, and it's relatively expensive to make because of both time and additional equipment and the base ingredient cost being significantly higher anyway. It's until you're happy with a recipe, it doesn't make sense to do that on a full scale. So that's something I'm excited to do. Hopefully next year, depending on whether the marketing budget allows it.
What marketing?
Have you started looking into acquiring any barrels yet, or the whole project will be something for next year?
We have some. We have 8.
That's exciting. Okay.
They are all full. They're all full with beer that I don't envisage releasing because we're not quite happy. It's just one of those. I think especially with the name like Double Barreled, our first barrel aged release needs to be something that we're really happy to put our stamp on and sort of shout about.
The name comes from your surname, is that right? Or was it kind of the play on words there that you're hoping to do barrel aged beers as well?
A bit of everything. So
it very, very initially was just, it was never planned to be like a business. It was just a name for our homebrew brewery as a result of our wedding. But then when we were like traveling around, we really kind of fell in love with a lot of the American kind of barrel aging programs. And when we kind of came back to the UK, we were like, well, this is what we want to be like the USP of Double Barreled, is to kind of bring some of that, really high quality barrel aging to the UK and certainly to sort of Reading. Because like someone like Siren, then they're not known for that. But like,
get your customers ready for it. It's all right. You can thank them, and then now you'll just come in with some great beers that they'll be super excited to drink. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we're really lucky that we're like surrounded. We've already got people who kind of are used to that kind of concept, like locally and stuff. So that's really cool. But yeah, it's just been it has been financial. That's like not allowed us to do that, and that also then that knowing that it's got to be right and it's got to be it's got to live up to the expectations that we've set up for ourselves to release that.
Yeah, but that's nice. It's not a no, it's just a not right now, and it's something that you can then look forward to. I'm going to give one more push to remind everyone they can ask questions. So we've got 5 more minutes. We've had one more question come in, and I've got loads more for you guys, so I could keep chatting. So let me ask you the next question that came in, and then I want to talk a little bit more about your origin story and your second birthday that you've just celebrated. So the question is, you have some excellent non-vegan beers and some equally excellent vegan beers. What makes your decision to add lactose or make a beer vegan friendly?
It's very, very easy. Lactose for me as a brewer is something that belongs in stouts and stouts only. So for me, it's true to style for a milk stout, and that is really it.
What about pocket money?
Did you put it in any of your fruited sours? That's what pocket money was, right? That was the fruited sour.
Yeah.
But it was because of the.
It was a rhubarb and custard goza. So the only way really to do a custard flavor is with lactose and vanilla. So
Sorry,
I had forgotten that though.
Okay, so there's the one exception, but for the most part, it's only.
I think it's just one of those things, isn't it? Is that if you're doing like, not that we have immediate plans to, but if you were doing a milkshake IPA, it makes sense to have lactose in it. But it's not something that we're going to put in a pale or an IPA. That doesn't require it for any other reasons than body, I suppose.
No,
so primarily stick to the sweet stouts or milk stouts, as that's classic for the style. But then otherwise, that means the rest of your beers, for the most part, with the odd exception, are vegan friendly because they just don't require lactose for the flavor.
Yeah.
All right. Oh my goodness. Another question. Okay. Love Lucy's jewelry. Nice. So big up the necklace. I am assuming she's branded for the occasion. Is it possible to get stuff as merch? Maybe I should know, but I'm really into that necklace. So do you have double-barreled merch that people can purchase? And if you want to tell where you got your necklace from, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, we do have merch. So we've got quite a lot of merch on the website now. We stocked up for the Christmas season. So we've got beanies, sweatshirts, t-shirts, all the good stuff, glassware as well. In terms of the necklace, we did have jewelry, did have the earrings and necklaces, but they have all sold out, unfortunately. So I can't figure them out, but I think there is the demand. So this necklace was made by a little independent jewelry maker who created it from the logo, but we're looking at sourcing. I've got my eye on some more local jewelry DB sourcing at some point. So they will come.
Cool. Okay, perfect. So keep your eyes out for that to come back. So yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your story? So just this past week, I believe, maybe earlier this month, it was your second birthday, which was of course celebrated virtually. So yeah, take us through sort of the idea of where the brewery came from. You mentioned you were home brewers. You took a bit of a journey and then decided to set up your own brewery. So yeah, how did we get here? Where did the idea for Double Barrel come from, and how have those first 2 years gone?
So I guess the initial idea, Mike was like a really passionate home brewer, and we were both working in kind of very corporate jobs. And then when we got married, we decided to brew a beer as our home, as our wedding favor, as our home brew beer, and we bottled it and produced it together. And kind of that whole process was, we really enjoyed working together. We really enjoyed creating the label and bottling it, and it was really fun, and we got good feedback from people, although now looking back they were definitely lying, but there we are. It was called, the first beer was called Ginger Bearded, which still should ring true now, but we won't see that released again.
And what style was it, that first beer?
Oh, some brown thing. It was pretty bad. It was really.
So it's not going to be added to the core lineup. Okay.
And I think, and then so we kind of went back to our jobs and we're like, that there was something in that. We sort of registered the name and we're like, what could this be something? Could we maybe open our own bar? Could we open our own bottle shop? Let's sort of spend some time thinking about this. And then we sort of thought took that sort of spend some time thinking about this a bit too literally, and then decided to sort of go traveling to focus on beer, and as well as a bit of wines and spirits as well, with the idea that we would use this sort of traveling time to kind of gain inspiration, bring something kind of unique to the UK that we weren't seeing in the UK at that time, and then use that to shape our business. So that's what we did. But we started, it was going to be a couple of months, and then kind of you get these opportunities once in life. So it just extended, and it ended up being 29 countries over 11 months. And it was just the most amazing time. And it 100% influenced everything that Double Barreled is today. And we sort of during the end of it, we were doing stuff. We were working on the brand with the idea that when we came back, as soon as we got back into the UK, to sort of hit the ground running. And obviously that we took time to sort of start it properly, and we just worked in jobs sort of relative to the industry. And then now here we are. So we started in our garage commercially. I think one of our first events with Mother Kelly's, we actually brought beer that was made in our garage as well.
That was after Craft Beer Rising, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We launched at Craft Beer Rising years ago, and then about a week or two later, we did this thing. Mother Kelly.
Yeah, it wasn't a week or two.
Wasn't it?
No. It took us 3 months to brew the beer for Craft Beer Rising because our kit was so small. Wow. And I remember speaking to Sam from Boxcar, and he was so chuffed with himself because he was like, "I'm definitely the smallest brewery here." And we were like, "Ha! We're like." We're now in a much bigger unit. So one of the things that a lot of people have told us when we spoke to breweries was get a bigger unit than you need, kind of grow into that. Which now, in glorious hindsight, had someone told me that there would be global pandemic in our second year, I probably wouldn't have done. But we're still here, still going. We've got like a really great team behind us. So we have on-site tap room. We have that you can come down, drink beer. And that's where we are now. Probably a little bit more like harangued and stressed than we were 2 years ago, but still like really positive about what the future can hold for us as long as we get there.
Yeah, exactly right. It's been such a difficult year for everyone, but then hopefully we will have something good to look forward to and getting your plans back on track on the other side of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've had a question come in as well about that stout that you had available at Craft Beer Rising. So it says, I had your OG milk stout at Craft Beer Rising, which I think was your first festival. I loved it and wanted to know if you'll be making any big imperials of that sort of thing and barrel aging anytime soon. So we talked a little bit about the barrel aging, but are you doing imperial stouts?
I would love to.
Still fine-tuning the recipe?
Yeah, very much so. So we've trialed a couple of things through our pilot kit, so our pilot kit now is the kit that we had in our garage. So
oh wow, okay.
That's sort of the progression that so our kit in the garage was 100 liters per batch. We now brew 2,400 liters, 24 hec per batch. So it's a significant jump.
My goodness.
But the beauty is we still have that pilot kit available to us to test recipes on, which we are doing some trials with imperial stouts at the moment.
There we go. So whoever asked that question, just wait a little bit longer. Patience will pay off.
Wasn't Gard like 2 or 3 of imperial stout on the new site?
Yeah,
because I remember
that's still in barrels.
The grist was like so massive. And it was just the 2 of us.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, yeah.
It's definitely 100% is on the cards, and it will happen. I suppose it's a bit. I'd like to think if you could aim for anything, it's like when I'm really over specking ourselves, but like I remember when Burning Sky released their first cool shit beer at Indie Man, and it was like, kind of the room stopped and everyone was like, that's going to be really good. And you just knew it was going to be good. And that's kind of, I want that feeling of knowing that when we do release it, that I could not necessarily justify that excitement. Well, I'd like to hope, but not going to be overconfident about it. But just more than just that, if that happened, that you would be, you'd be really comfortable saying, yes, this is really good. This is exactly how I wanted this beer to be. And that's really important to us.
Yeah, it's nice to think of like having that moment. And so then personally what it's going to take for you to feel that moment about the beer, and you want to then give that moment to your customers as well.
It's very nerve-wracking, like releasing new beer and people going, oh, I'm really excited about it. And you're like, oh my God, really? Oh no.
You're like, bring those expectations down just in case. You're like, it's going to be good, but just...
Yeah, so that's where I think it's about making sure we're okay.
Oh, no, everything's tasting really great. So we've just gone over half an hour, so I just want to ask, what can people look forward to next? I don't know if you want to tell us what beer releases you've got coming up. And then we'll look to wrap up.
Well, from what we've got in tank and what's going into tank this week, we have a new a collab that we did earlier this year that we ended up having to ditch, which we've fixed the problems with and have rebrewed it last week. So that'll be coming out hopefully in a couple of weeks' time. That is a New Zealand Pale.
Oh, fun. Meaning it has New Zealand hops? Is that what makes it?
It's all New Zealand hops.
Oh, so, that sounds awesome.
I'm quite excited for it. I'm not trying to big it up too much just in case the same thing. It shouldn't be an issue, but just touch wood here. We are brewing a breakfast stout tomorrow.
Oh, exciting!
And then we have another fruity kettle sour on the way as well.
Do you want to reveal what fruits are in there, or is that one a mystery until it's out?
We haven't quite decided.
Okay. So it's a mystery to you.
If anyone's got any fruits that they'd like to see in a kettle sour, then far away.
Yeah, but as you said, it depends on what's available and yeah, what the right mix might be. So, okay, cool. Yeah, that's such a fun space to experiment. Like, you've got that lovely acidity, and then what kind of fun fruit flavors can we bring to it too? Okay, perfect. Well, thank you guys. Any last things you would like to share before I give one last plug for the beer? And of course, where people can find it. Anything else you want to share about the brewery that you haven't gotten to mention yet?
I don't think so. Not really. But this has been really cool. Thank you very much for having us on. And it's flown by for us. I don't know if it's like. I was like,
yeah, me too. I kept looking at the clock and I was like, oh, we're at this time already. I could keep chatting with you guys for ages. So yes, to keep up with Lucy and Mike and Double Barreled, they are at DB Brewery on Twitter, and then Double Barreled Brewery. Here we are on the screen on Instagram. So you can find them in both places there. I'm Beer with Nat, and then you can keep up with Mother Kelly's at Mother_Kellys on Twitter, Instagram, and then each site has its own individual Facebook page. And Mother Kelly's recently got in a lovely load of double-barreled beers. So their Stoke Newington bottle shop is open, so you can pick some up there, or go to shop.motherkellys.co.uk if you don't live in London. So there we go. I hope everyone who's been drinking along with us has enjoyed their lovely red currant and peach fruited with us. Cheers, guys. Thank you so much for joining.
Cheers.
See you soon.